I want to talk about the truth behind protecting your energy and why I stopped protecting mine. Okay, welcome back to Unfiltered and Into the Deep, the podcast where we go headfirst into the realms of manifestation, deep inner healing, intuition, channeling, abundance, wealth consciousness, all of the damn things. And I think this conversation is so powerful. And I welcome you to come with curiosity. Notice if something resonates. Notice if you have a really strong, deep resistance to it. And then go deeper. Okay? So a client on the weekend sent me a reel. And I think it opened with like, can dark energies attach to you? And it's like a little remix at the very beginning. And I think her name is Teresa Caputo, something like that. She's like from Jersey. You'd probably recognize her with like, she has really big hair. And I used to like actually quite be curious about her. She had like a show on TLC. I was trying to tell my husband about her and he's like, I have no idea who you're talking about. But she had like, she might still, I don't watch TLC currently, but like around mediumship. And I know she even like came to Calgary a couple of years ago. And, you know, I would have resonated years ago with a little bit of it, but I just haven't found myself drawn to some of those bigger mediums. And I think this really nails it for me. And like why I'm not drawn to it. And there was also like a show I feel called to share on Netflix. And I think his name's Tyler. It was a great show and really powerful. He's a really powerful medium, but he gets really exhausted. And, you know, the show kind of shared about that and like how he can only do so much at like so many readings, or like he's really depleted after. And don't resonate with that either, because I think these are a little bit of like beliefs that we've taken on as our own, and they don't have to be the only truth available. Okay, so let's go back to this reel and how it was like about dark energies that are like stuck or like attached to us. And the reason I don't like it, and this nails it, the reel nailed it, of like it activates so much fear. And so it's activating the sympathetic nervous system, right? And instantly I was like, yes, to this client. We actually talked about it in a podcast a few episodes ago. It's with Megan Nethersall, and I think it's like closer to the last quarter of the podcast, where we are talking about, she had came across another reel that called it like dark shadow workers or something, dark shadow walkers. And I was just like, yep, I can totally see that, because I am somebody that doesn't shy away from deeper, darker feelings or like dark nights of the soul. Like I love that shit. I think there is so much available to us in that. And so it's not that I think these ideas are entirely impossible. It's not that I'm saying there aren't darker entities out there or deep, sticky energy. It's just that I consciously choose not to live inside those belief systems. I consciously choose it. And I am not here to invalidate anyone's experiences, but I just want you to get really curious and see how all of this resonates for you that I'm going to share here. So as humans, right, we've always sensed that there is more happening than what we can see with our eyes. Science has proven this. Pretty much every spiritual tradition across the world acknowledges this at some level, right? And so like indigenous traditions speak about ancestors, spirit realms. Eastern traditions talk about like energetic fields, subtle bodies. Christianity speaks to angels and demons and spiritual warfare. Shamanism is like spirit helpers, lost souls, that sort of thing, right? And so I'm not dismissing any of that. But because like so many of us have had like profound experiences through mediumship, channeling, spiritual readings, shamanism, Christianity, like all of these practices. What's coming through here is like family constellations, I think is one of them. I don't know much about that one, but for a lot of us, these moments are like incredibly validating or healing, right? And that's awesome. That's so powerful in itself. But I want to share a story with you from years and years ago that I took in person, all around like intuition, and we were learning about chakras and energy and pendulums and all the things, right? And it was like this small, intimate group. And I really trusted the facilitators. I felt good with the facilitators. One I didn't know, but the other one, like, I did kind of know her a little bit deeper. And I really felt great with the women that were in that room. And so on the final day of it, we were doing a practicum where everyone would lay on the table and the facilitators would check our chakras with a pendulum. And as like the others went up before me, they were having these like really beautiful experiences. Some people were having emotional breakthroughs. Others were receiving like deep insights about their life and their purpose, or like where their energy might be blocked. And, they would clear this up as they were going all the way from the root all the way up, right? And so by the time it was my turn, I was like actually pretty excited. And I trusted the room, I trusted the people in there, I trusted the work, I felt safe. And so I laid on that table and I kind of went into like this nice, relaxed, almost hypnotic state. And I was completely comfortable. And then something started happening in my body that I felt like I could not control. And so these guttural sounds started coming out of me. I was like sobbing, my body was releasing, like I was making these sounds and shaking. And, I was releasing something that had been buried really, really deep. And I was still aware, but I didn't feel like I could physically stop what was happening. And so my body was just like really moving through something. Now, the one main facilitator in particular, she stayed really calm, which definitely helped, but I could feel the room shift and I could feel the women around me kind of be like, this is intense. What's going on? And, a little bit later, like they went through my whole system and they brought me kind of out of it. And I was still quite shaky. And honestly, I was like very freaked out. That main facilitator, she came outside with me and helped me ground, and I got like the sun on my face and saw some trees, and she told me I should put selenite under my bed because she believed these entities had come through me. And while I was going through it, like the facilitators were kind of whispering, and it was just like this kind of weird feeling. She told me I had these dark entities and energy that had came through, but she was trying to assure me it was no big deal. They had dealt with them, and she would continue to that later that afternoon. And at the time, I would feel like okay with it, but it was also like the explanation was kind of terrifying to me. Like, what the F? And so I went home, and like that whole night I was shook. I tried to explain it to Blake, and I was like pretty early on in my journey of intuition and trusting it and like bigger energies and stuff. And so I like over the next few months, I would reach out to people that I trusted in the spiritual space. I was really just like trying to make sense of what happened, and no one really had an answer for me. Everyone would just like say like really ground and get into yourself, or, like try not to worry about it. And I would try as the human self not to think about it, but the impact was so huge from this. So for months after that, I shut the door on my intuition, and we can do that. And that's okay. Mediumship, channeling, like all of that stuff, we can say, nope, not today. If you were in my synergy training last week, it's like, not today, mofo, not today. But like I stopped meditating, right? I avoided hypnosis. I wouldn't do breath work, anything that might take me back into that deeper state. I was just afraid of it. And I didn't know what would come out of me again. I didn't want to see things. I didn't want to feel things. But now looking back, this is like probably 7 years ago, 6, 7. So ridiculous. I see that experience totally differently now. Because at that time in my life, the decade before that, I had gone through an enormous amount of human experience. A lot of small t trauma. So, like deaths, suicides in my circle, cancer, scares with family members. I thought I was going to lose my mom, car accidents with people I loved, a lot of money shit, like a lot. And I didn't know how to process emotions, like at all. So what did I do instead? I pushed through because that's what we do as human beings. So it doesn't kill us, makes us stronger was definitely one of my like mantras of like, if I don't break here, I'm totally fine. And people would tell me all of the time, you're so resilient, you have so much grace. And yes, that's how it looked up from the outside. And, I still have some of those people in my life. So please don't shame yourself if that was something you said to me. That's not the purpose of this at all. But what I understand now is that I had become incredibly skilled at repressing. And I was really skilled at putting on a good mask. I just wore that mask of like, it's all good. It's okay. I was like fairly positive person. And when I laid on that table and went into that deeper state where I was feeling safe, my body opened the door. This is how I look at it now. And so all the things I had never processed before came up. The sobbing, the sounds, the intensity. Like, I don't see it now as entities. I see it as like a massive release of stored trauma and emotion that my body had been holding for years. And so for the first time, I was in an environment safe enough for it to surface. And my body took that opportunity. Like it just was like, yeah, you can release this here. You can process this here. And quite quickly, because the women in this room, they were very anchored into themselves, right? So it was like a really great place to do it at. And so now when I look back, what I thought was something really external happening to me, I see so differently because I believe what happened is that my own body finally opened a door that I had kept locked for a really long time. And I'll see this with people that get sick too in different ways, like especially ways that like doctors are like, well, it doesn't really make sense. Like we don't really understand. This is unprocessed emotion coming to the surface. So all of the grief, all of the fear, all of the trauma that I had never allowed myself to feel. When my body felt safe enough in a room like this is where it surfaced. And so the really interesting thing about this is that there's actually a lot of science behind it. I have researched the shit out of this over the years because my human brain really likes to understand. Your human brain really likes to understand too. And let's just be clear, I, again, am not saying here that dark energies and entities don't exist. Many spiritual traditions talk about these things, and people have profound experiences in those realms and have seen things, and I get that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the energy that it's coming from of how it stays with you. And so the place I've personally landed now is that it kind of doesn't matter to me anymore because I choose to orient toward love and not from a spiritual bypassing place. So spiritual bypassing is when we avoid emotions, right? When we pretend anger, grief, fear, rage, pain, that they just don't exist. They're not there. Positive talk. Like, just be happy, that kind of thing, right? That's not what I'm talking about here. I am not afraid of deeper emotions. I'm not afraid of what some people may call the darker emotions. I've gone into those spaces in my own healing many, many times. And I want you to kind of get curious around this of like, what I'm talking about here is where we place our focus once we are aware. So what if we thought about it like this? You know, those moments when we're like standing somewhere incredibly beautiful, like you could be at the ocean or maybe you're in the mountains, you're standing at the edge of a waterfall, watching a beautiful sunset and the whole sky is lit up in like those beautiful wild colors. And in that moment, you're so present that your body settles, your nervous system actually settles here. And so even though the world still has problems, even though there are hard things happening in life, they aren't running the show in your body at that very moment. They aren't the thing, like our mind isn't scanning for danger here, right? And so our body, our physical self, our physiological self is orientated to like the awe, the presence, the beauty of it. And so it's not that the hardship disappeared from the world. It's like another piece of that duality I talk about all the time. It's just our focus is shifted. And our brains are literally wired for this. So it's the reticular activating system. Okay, so this is part of the brain that can constantly scans the environment around us for whatever we have decided as important. So if our system is trained to look for danger, look for darkness, look for threats, that's what it finds. And when we consciously choose love, choose presence, choose connection, we're choosing something different, and then something different starts happening inside of us. So we stop giving our power away here to what might be happening around us. You might have heard me call this like circumstantial power. And we come back into that relationship with self with what is happening inside of us. It's like when we give birth. If you're a mom and you've ever given birth before, and like if you've gone without drugs, you've like that, like I didn't have drugs with my kids because they were born very fast. And so the first time I tried, and the second, third time, it was like, what's the point? Like, you just go through it. But then there's like that moment of ecstasy after they're born and they're in your arms and like nothing outside of you matters, right? You're not really thinking about the pain that you just went through. So the real shift isn't about solving the mystery of what happens. Like for me, like the mystery of what happened to me that day on the table. The shift was realizing that my power was inside of me the whole time. It was never outside of me. And so when she was saying these dark entities, and it was like really scary, but it was also not resonating for me, but I didn't understand, and my brain didn't have anything else to go to. So what I interpreted that day as something happening to me, I now understand something in my body was trying to move through me. And you'll often hear me say, things aren't happening to me, they're happening for me. This is why learning how to be in relationship with our body and ourself is so powerful, because when we understand that our nervous system is doing like what it is doing, we stop making ourselves wrong for the experiences that were actually part of the healing process. And to me, that's what synergy really means. It's the relationship between the body, the mind, and the intuitive self. It's not rejecting the human parts of us. It's not rejecting the soul parts of us either. But actually understanding the human side of us, the psychology, the physiology, the nervous system, so that we connect so easily to our higher self, or what I like to use as authentic self, soul self. Because when we ignore the body, or when we dismiss the human experience in the name of spirituality or religion, we end up disconnecting from ourselves. And so then the mind, the body, the intuition, they're not working together. But when they are working together, that's where like that real alignment happens. That's where we like, I was saying in Synergy last week, one of the trainings of like, that's where when we like barely blow a breeze, it moves mountains. That's where the real power comes from. And the more we understand the human system we're living in, and we don't need like master's degrees in this, but the easier it does become to access the wisdom that's already in us. Okay, so I just want to talk to you about the RAS for a second. So this is the reticular activating system, and it decides, it's like a filter for us. It decides what we notice, it decides what we ignore. And the brain is constantly receiving millions of pieces of information a second. But the RAS only lets through what it believes is important. So this is like, if your belief is that dark energies are everywhere, that attachments are common, that a psychic attack is likely for us, then our brain will start scanning the world around us to confirm that damn belief. It's called confirmation bias. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, so many different areas of science have their own term for it. But this is where we begin noticing like uncomfortable sensations, emotional shifts, other people's moods, random coincidences. I don't believe in that, but and we start interpreting them as evidence. So the reticular activating system is constantly asking, what should I look for? And once we tell it to look for danger or to look for attachments on us, it becomes really good at finding it. So the fear isn't actually about spiritual energy. It's often somewhere else in life that we're already in survival mode. So like I was saying, of like financial stress, relationship stress, uncertainty about the future, childhood trauma patterns with a small t, when the nerve, a big T too, but I deal more with small t. So when our nervous system is already activated and the brain is scanning for threat everywhere, sometimes that threat gets interpreted spiritually. So what might actually be happening is a nervous system dysregulation, or like emotional resonance with others, empathic sensitivity. And then the interpretation from this becomes entities or attachments. So a message that might come through spiritually, and it'll feel like a clean share or like a clean channel, it will always still pass through the human delivering it. So whether that's our own intuition we're tapping into or reading for someone else, the filter will always happen. And so I kind of look at it as like, if your camera was set to black and white, you cannot see color, right? If you have a filter set for your camera that's on black and white, then you will not see the color around it in the picture. And so it feels like it's the truest picture because it's in black and white, but the color is decided by the human. I have 2 family members that are color deficient. So like they still see color, but they see it in different ways. And it's so fascinating to me over the years. My husband's had it since he was a little kid. But then one of my kids developed it in the last few years. And it's like so interesting because it's not all colors we see differently, but I just like want to put on glasses to see how they see it. So if we go back to this reel around the dark identities or entities, I guess, this is when the spiritual beliefs become power leaks. And so the part of this conversation that matters the most to me isn't whether the dark energies exist or not. The deeper question is what happens to our sense of power when we believe something outside of us can attach to us, manipulate us, harm us energetically. That's circumstantial power. So when our safety depends on the circumstances being perfect, we're actually not grounded in our own power. And so circumstantial power can sound like, if I'm safe, I am safe if I protect my energy enough. I am safe if no negative people are around me. I am safe if I shield myself spiritually. I am safe if the money comes in. I am safe if X happens. The client shows up. My husband does this. Like, we will do this in our body all the time. And so the real energetic sovereignty for ourselves would sound more like, I can remain grounded in myself regardless of the whatever energy is around me. I just did a big empathy module last week in Synergy around this. And this is where in that 12-week live immersion, we'll go so deep into that because we strip our power, we give our power away so often. But when we are deeply connected to ourselves, when we are in our body, when we're grounded in presence, and when we're operating from love instead of fear, we're not easily destabilized. Very few things can rock us. So when we're really in our body and we're connected to ourselves, we become whole in a way where things can move around us and it just doesn't really affect us. And so energy can pass through the field, can pass through us without becoming our identity. So this is why in the last couple of years, I really haven't resonated with energetic bubbles or like protection rituals or guarding my energy. And I've had a few people say that to me, like people I know and love, of like, oh, you should bubble up. Oh, whatever. Like there's so many different circumstances I have floating through my mind where people have said this to me. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't resonate because I allow energy to move through me. Because here's the deeper part of this that I've really came to realize over the last couple of years. When we try to block things, we create resistance. And resistance amplifies the very thing we're trying to stop. And so energy actually moves through the body much more cleanly when we stop trying to barricade ourselves against it, when we stop putting those walls up. Because something else that I've really come to understand through all of this is when we become really focused on protecting ourselves from a bad energy or dark forces or things outside of us, we can actually start closing ourselves off so much from the beauty that's trying to come through. So the nervous system, the body, the energetic field, whatever like language you use, can't really be open and barricaded at the same time, right? Because a lot of times when we're protecting our energy, we're putting up these big walls. And so then like we orientate ourselves to like, what do I need to block? What might attach to me? What could harm me? And our bodies like subconsciously moves into defense. And when we're in defense mode, we're not open, we're guarded. This happens when we get hurt in life by people around us too, right? We won't let them in. So like when we're really guarded, the tricky part is that that same doorway that allows difficult emotions or energy to move through us is also the doorway that allows intuition, creativity, love, connection, joy to move through us too. And so there's different parts of my season. Like I feel like somebody's going to be like, I don't know if I believe this because I just like feel like I'm in a really good place and I have a lot of awesome going on. And I love that for you. But chances are there will be a next layer and level that will come through for you to heal. Because the more we heal, and then we kind of live in like this pretty good space for X amount of time. It's different for everybody. And like things will be going good and things are flowing and that's amazing. And I love that for you. But then usually we'll hit that upper limit edge. Again, I go through this in synergy. And then it'll like some of those deeper emotions will start to come to the surface to be healed, to be let go of, to be released. So if we spend our lives trying to lock the door, or like shutting the door, slamming the door, putting all the locks, chains, like all of it on it, barricading it right up, we don't just then block what we're afraid of, we also block the magic. And so if we're in that space where we're just feeling great about everything in life, I'm going to lovingly nudge you and call you out here of like, I don't think that's a human experience. I think you're repressing something there because I actually think it's weird if we go through like longer than a couple of weeks of not feeling something that's a little bit harder or deeper. And so I could feel like somebody saying, Jen, that's not true. I've been really great. And it's like, lovingly calling you out here of like, awesome. But what are you making something heavier feel or something deeper mean about you? Like for me, anger was like one of the hardest emotions for me to feel because it just didn't resonate with me. It didn't make sense to me. It seemed like a waste of time. And so I wouldn't allow myself to feel that because I was still judging it. And so now I can have like a little blurb of anger, last an hour, 17 minutes, 7 seconds, doesn't matter, because I'm not making it mean something about me and my identity and who I am. So I choose to anchor myself so deeply in my own body, my own awareness, and my own connection to love. And I'll even have love for those darker, deeper emotions because I trust my capacity to meet it. Because when we're grounded in ourselves, we don't have to live in defense. We can live in openness. And openness is where the deeper intuition flows. It's where the deeper healings happen. It's where like the most beautiful things in life find us. And so I want you to remember the goal is not to barricade ourselves from the dark. The goal is to become so connected to our deeper self that we're no longer afraid of what might pass through, whether that's our own emotions or darker, deeper emotions, entities, whatever the devil, whatever you want to call it out there, to pass through us. And so I don't spend my life trying to block anything. No dark energy, no devil, no like hardship emotions. I don't try to block any of those. I don't ignore them. But I spend my life, not every day, not every moment of life, but when things come up, I'm strengthening my connection to self. And even without things coming up, I'm constantly strengthening that connection to myself because from that place, fear doesn't really have much power. Okay, I love you. Share this with anybody you think that might want to hear some of this, or if you haven't like personally resonated with some of the cord cutting was always really sticky for me too, because I don't want to cut cords with people that I love deeply. Just didn't resonate. And so if this is a message that you feel somebody else could benefit from, please share. I love doing the podcast. I love serving people in that way. I'm sending you so much love. Have the best day.